Today we're going to use the Gentle Chef's succulent turkey roast recipe from his holiday PDF. And if you haven't heard of the Gentle Chef, you really need to check out his cookbooks. This one, Seitan and Beyond, is a Bible of mine. I've used this for years and I have never come across a recipe that isn't just absolutely incredible. So like many Seitan recipes, this one starts off with mixing wet ingredients with dry ingredients. Now for the wet ingredients, you're going to be blending together a lot of spices and tofu. Tofu is the star of the show here. It's gonna give it that juicy texture that mimics turkey, but just make sure that yours is firm and that it's packed in water. Now the water to gluten ratio in Seitan recipes is incredibly important. So then one of the first steps you're gonna do is press your tofu for about an hour. So if you don't have a tofu press like me, you can just make one. It works just as well to use a book on top of a cutting board. You can also wrap your tofu in a clean kitchen towel. Now you can use paper towels too. I'm just trying to help the enviro. So when your tofu is dry and it crumbles like this, measure out 280 grams or 10 ounces and add it to the blender along with your other ingredients. There's gonna be a small amount of tofu left over, so why not have a little snack? Now the recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, but if you've been following my channel for any length of time, you'll know that we're gonna sub out one of those TSPs for MSGs. Then we're gonna slam that umami switch to on by also adding a 4th teaspoon of disodium isonate and disodium guanylate powder. It is MSG's sidekick to Umamiville. It is typically used in packaged foods like chips or soups. You've probably eaten it before and just didn't know what it was. So this particular brand is vegan and it's called, yes, make it meaty. Some of them aren't, so if you're gonna get some for yourself, make sure that it's vegan. So after you've used your high power blender to blend your tofu and seasonings and water, go ahead and pour it into your gluten mix. Now this is another critical step. You have to knead the dough for at least 3 minutes vigorously. The dough to start is really kind of gloopy. After 3 minutes of kneading, at least, you're gonna feel the dough firm up right in your hands. And what I did is I just folded it, punched it down, and turned it. Now, once it's elastic and looks like this, you're ready to roll. So regarding the foil, make sure you're using heavy duty foil. The thin stuff has its time and place, like if you're wrapping burritos or taking food to go, but that time is not now. So at the end of kneading, shape your dough into an imperfect log and put it at the bottom of a sheet of aluminum foil. And then you're gonna roll that up into a log, kind of like a Tootsie Roll. You're gonna pinch the ends and twist, and then you're gonna do that again with another sheet of aluminum foil. For more detailed instructions on how to wrap seitan in foil, check out my perfect seitan pepperoni video. So after baking on the middle rack for an hour and 30 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, let it cool, unwrap it, pierce it with a fork on both sides, and then simmer in stock for 1 hour. So what we're doing here is the oven is par baking the roast, and then we're gonna finish it in the simmer. Now do not let the stock boil with the roast in there. This is actually the easiest way for you to ruin the final product. This is what too low of a temperature looks like, this is what perfect simmering looks like, and this is what a boil looks like. You want that middle one. So on that note, I highly recommend getting a food thermometer. I use it for way more than just seitan roasts. I actually use it to make sure food is heated up, the right temperature, instead of kind of using my hands, just like a nice thing to have in the kitchen. Once done, follow the recipe for the finishing touch. Now my goal is always to give you the tools and tips you need so that you can learn how to sort of freestyle in the kitchen. The tips and techniques here will likely also work for any seitan roast recipe that you find online. So if you want to go the extra mile, you can use rice paper or yuba, it's also known as tofu skin, to make a nice skin-like layer around the roast. The channel Yada June's Plant-Based Kitchen has an amazing video on this technique. I've linked it below if you want to give that a go. So obviously this recipe is more for serving thicker slices, maybe with some gravy and some sides, but this also makes amazing deli-style sliced turkey as well. If you're gonna be making this just to make deli-style slices, I actually would recommend a different recipe. The turkey recipe by 86 Eats is also fantastic. It actually doesn't require the simmering process, and they have a really cool technique with rolling it in spices so that the outside gets a nice layer of flavor. So if you're an Instant Pot owner, you can actually use the Instant Pot instead of baking. Just drop the package on top of your steaming insert in about a cup of water, and then cook that on high for about 45 minutes. You'll of course then need to let it cool, simmer it, and then finish it as it is directed in the recipe. Look, we all know that the holidays can be a little stressful. You're making other dishes, probably besides this one. So what's great is that you can actually prepare this one weeks, actually months in advance. Just make sure to fully thaw it before you need to use it. Whether you're a veteran vegan cook or you're trying seitan for the first time, you're gonna love this recipe. And as always, be nice to each other and keep cooking.